Hi everyone, welcome along to this overview of Precursive. I'm going to be going through some key areas of functionality in this step-through demo, really orientated towards you as a services team inside of a SaaS company. You've stated your goals are to maximize ARR, to improve the launch times and supporting retention efforts and expansion sales, but that the team is working across multiple tools today, including Cantata, Google Sheets, and Smart Sheets. So that's creating a lot of disconnected data and duplicated effort. So I'm going to show you how Precursive brings everything together into one place and how we can support your services-led growth strategy from pipeline to delivery through the margin. So just to orientate you to some of the things that you're seeing on the page to begin with, just across the top of the page here. So Precursive is built on the Salesforce platform. We're inside of a dashboard in Precursive, which I'm going to go through in a moment, speaking to what we can see here, which is like our bookings and our revenue backlog and some other data points. But across the top, we've also got insight templates, which I'll touch on, which is where Precursive AI is using prompts to surface project updates and find risks or spot opportunities. Accounts and opportunities, standard Salesforce objects, projects, which is where we're going to see how Precursive can be used to deliver multi-product, multi-service line engagements. Our resource plan, which is where we'll understand our team's capacity and their utilization. The task planner is where typically your ICs, project managers, are going to be managing their tasks. My Precursive is everyone's favorite timesheet. Reports is standard Salesforce reports, Kanban and Gantt, as it sounds, again, linked to projects. And then HQ, again, is where your operations team, you, and others can manage Precursive, right? We're going to show you how you're in control of this solution. You don't need a Salesforce admin, which is what some other vendors may tell you. You're in control of managing your resources, your rate cards, utilization, holidays, all of the above. Cool. So let's talk a little bit about some of the data that's being generated here in our PS360 dashboard to begin with. So very often, like as a services leader, you can be getting asked, are we hitting our bookings number? What's our revenue and our margin forecast looking like? And this is going to give you that answer in seconds with no spreadsheets or manual reporting. Now, importantly, you should be asking, well, how easy is it from my team to get the data in so that we get good data out, which we're going to touch on during this step through demo. But as we can see here, top left, I've got a summary of bookings and sales pipelines, so a pretty healthy attach rate. More than 80% of deals have got PS attached. We are tracking towards our target of $1 million, which is good. And our revenue attach ratio, which is the proportion of service revenue to software revenue, again, pretty healthy. So, one could argue that potentially we may need to bring that down over time. And then on the right, we've obviously got our backlog, both in terms of effort and in terms of revenue. Now, as we come down, we'll also see now at the beginning of the year, we've got some of the high level data points from our P&L, right? So recognized revenue to date. Again, this is that services revenue, profit on that. So we are profitable, but our margin forecast for this quarter is negative. So we want to understand what's happening there. That likely is going to be linked to a couple of different dynamics, which is potentially kind of how we're selling services, but also what we're achieving. So we can see here we're pretty under where we want to be in terms of our $200 an hour target from an achieve rate standpoint. So we are potentially over servicing, doing too much non-billable work. So we'll want to unpack why that is, and we'll show that later on. And then, of course, everyone's favorite utilization. So our forecast for the current year, again, at this point in time for the year overall, relatively low. But again, that's looking at the year in total. But we can see as well variance, right? So this is showing us what's forecast versus what we've actually done. So we could be looking at that within a period, within a month, and trying to understand where is that variance. So again, are we hitting our forecasts or not? And then again, finally, just, where are these billable hours forecast so we can see across the implementation group, managed services, and the PS function as a whole. Sorry, the PS group, my apologies. So we're distinguishing between our onboarding services, what we call professional services, which is our consulting services to clients, and then our managed services, which is our recurring service. So again, our customers are selling multiple services into their clients. Right. So let's move on and look at a little bit about what we're doing from an AI perspective, which underpins a lot of things in Precursive. So we can build what are called insight templates, which are going to generate both updates and insights that are shared across our team. So as you can see here, we've got a prompt, which is going to be used to summarize the progress of a project, any actions that are taking place. As we go down, we can also see here that it's going to be looking at milestone slippage, for example, and it's asking us to include quotes from customers, which will be coming in from the calls that are being recorded with clients. And those will form a part of the context which Precursive aggregates, which is here on the right-hand side in our rules. So again, this is looking at events that are happening, which is coming in from the call summaries and information in the projects themselves. I'll show what this looks like and how these insights are distributed and the different types of templates that are available as we go through. Let's move on to HQ. So again, here down the left, we can see there's a range of activities that we can manage inside of Precursive, timesheets, currency settings, overall system settings. This at the moment, though, just in terms of those background processes, we can say, look, we want to calculate utilization for this point in the month. As an example, we want to work out remaining holidays. And again, these things can be running on a schedule or run just as an independent action. So if you do get asked for like, where are we going to land in terms of util for this period, and we want to run and aggregate everything together, we can do so. So again, you and your team very much in control here of managing your resources, as we can see, as well as some of those additional background things that you're going to care about from an operations standpoint. Let's move on. Cool. So I'm going to move on now to just explaining a little bit about the overall project architecture inside of Precursive. At the moment, right, you're pivoting between your PSA, where you're doing timesheets, your Smartsheet, where you're doing some of those project plans and task plans, and then spreadsheets for revenue forecasting, right? So you're pivoting between these three areas. Let's show how that comes together here. Now, I'm inside of a project. As we can see, we've got the overall financial performance of this engagement. So what we're forecasting to do on the left and where we're going to land on the right. So for example, we can see that we're going to make more margin at this point in time, and our achieve rate is pretty high. That's going to come down as we record more time. And then Precursive AI, which again, driven by that prompt, is providing a summary for me as a PM. And this could also be distributed to other members of the team, showing me project health, key activities that are due, and a particular risk that's been identified as well, right? So we can see that's here. Now that can come from us adding insights or health into the project, or it can be picked up obviously from the calls or emails that we're receiving or conducting with our customers. And obviously it's also telling me when we're going to get to completion. Now, if we look here at the top, we've got we can structure projects in a range of ways. So in this particular example, we've got a single phase, and a phase can house revenue, budgets, project plans. We've then got on this engagement, we've actually sold a mixture of software and a mixture of services. So we've got our core implementation package and then a couple of add-ons, which is the e-commerce crypto. So just to explain a little bit about the architecture here. So this implementation package maps back to something that we've sold in sales, right? And we have a series of tasks and dependencies and effort associated with the delivery of this core implementation package. Now, when we sell an add-on, and we pop that in here, so I'll take the e-commerce add-on, for example, there are a set of things that we also need to do in this project. And this means that we can attach milestones to particular tasks across those different services, products, or software products, which allows us to take effectively complex quotes from Salesforce CRM and CPQ, where we might be selling one or multiple products and one or multiple services, and stitch that together into a coherent container which could have one or multiple budgets or phases, but really gives you that flexibility to combine managing the delivery from a project management and deliverable standpoint with the customer, but also being able to unpack the performance and profitability of the service offerings and report on those accordingly. And that's really important. And that's one of our unique differentiators is really being able to look at those deals that are being sold and you having the flexibility to then stitch those all together. And that's what will happen if we drill into this phase. We've taken that mix of services and Precursive has put together an overall project plan. Now, these are the key milestones from a delivery standpoint. So how long is it going to take us to get to UAT, to go live, and indeed to first value? So for example, from today, we've got another 23 days, right, getting to the go live. Yep. And from kickoff to UAT, we can see pretty quick. Now, this is all pulled together by stitching together, as I said, all of those different tasks, right? So we've got, everything across the core delivery and those add-on packages, and that is stitched together here into a coherent project plan, right? Which, as I manipulate this, is going to update my resource capacity forecast as well as potentially my revenue forecast. So, for example, if I was to move this out, which I'm not going to, right, that's going to move everything out downstream. Now, if we look here, we've had that happen. So, for example, we can see that our testing's happening about a week late to what we originally said in the beginning of the engagement when we baselined this project, which is essentially taking a snapshot. And these tasks are also going to automatically update our resource plan, as we can see here. So in this example, the user testing, right, that is forecast to happen in the week of the 16th, that's also the tasks for both me and Timothy, the consultant, are also populating into the resource plan, and it will drop into our timesheet. So if I move forward in my timesheet a couple of weeks, we can see that user testing has automatically updated my timesheet. So again, this is where we're really bringing together that project plan, driving the resource plan, which drives the revenue. And again, that all maps back to the opportunity products that you're selling. So as a PM, though, if I want to make some adjustments to my plan, I can do that in the context of other projects that I'm working on, and also that my colleague Timothy is working on. So, for example, if I do need to make adjustments, I can come in here and see, is that actually going to work based upon the other schedule, which we can see here, right? In this particular week, right, there's an implementation review that Timothy is doing with another customer that is managed by Emma from a project management standpoint. So really just, again, Precursive is bringing together all of those sort of gaps in visibility into one place. So you've got a very coherent, clear view of what's happening. And this leads to much better understanding of if you're tracking to plan or if there's going to be overrun and to what degree that's going to happen. Excellent. So moving on, you mentioned that a key challenge for you guys is resourcing. You're either flying blind or you're reliant on gut feel, and it's a little bit blood, sweat, and tears and spreadsheets. So let's look at what that looks like in Precursive at a higher level. Now, we showed this on an individual project basis, but for example, our resource planners might be coming in here and looking at what is my team working on. So in this example, we've got our resources grouped by the teams that they work within. So this is the implementation services group. And down the left, I've got the team, where we've got various skill sets mapped out for them. So when I want to do skills-based or product knowledge-based assignment, I can do so. And we can see here with Brad that he's on holiday this week. Good news for Brad. Now, I can also see that there's a clash. So would this happen in real life with Precursive? Probably not, because we would have seen that there's an implementation review due to take place when Brad's on holiday, which means we would have either moved this forward to the week before, right? Where probably going to be pretty challenging for him to do that towards the end of the week. So maybe we would have need to thought about could we move some of these things around or pushing that out. And again, that's going to be a question for Tom, who's the project manager on that engagement, so we can have that conversation as well. Right now, in addition to this, and again, this is very much a step through, we'd be able to look at our backlog of open requirements. So, for example, we can see here specific projects where we need to assign people, and we can do that in a range of ways. We can assign it here, or we can look at using Magic Assign and identifying who's going to be the best fit based upon the tasks, the skills that are needed. In this example, there isn't any particular skill set required, so it's telling me who's the best fit for that particular engagement. So if I do want to assign that to Jason, I can just go ahead and do so. And all of those tasks are going to be assigned to him. And he'll get a notification. That time will then pass through into his timesheet as well. Moving on, again, from a resourcing standpoint, let's have a little look at what things look like from a demand forecasting perspective. So all of those allocations for our team is also rolling up, so we can understand what's the total level of demand across work that we've sold, our backlog, and our pipeline. And as I come in here, right, I can immediately see that based upon all of that, we're going to be a little bit underwater, right? Now, if I just wanted to look at what's in commit and closed, we may see some adjustments here potentially. Not actually. So again, based upon everything that is at commit and closed, we're going to need to think about either leveraging partners or external consultants, or are we actually having to create a lead time here? Because we can see from a full-time equivalent perspective, this quarter and next quarter, we're pretty underwater in terms of the needs for our team versus our capacity. And we can see where those capacity crunches are going to occur. Again, either on an hours basis, so how many hours do we need, which is on the left here, right? So we've got here on the left, we've got capacity by role per month. So for example, we can see in April that the amount of technical engineering expertise that we need. And we can also see this on a full-time equivalent basis. Now, what this means is that if we were to see this pattern, right, we could argue that potentially we're going to need to hire based upon the fact that we've got these deals at commit and closed won. We're going to need to hire probably an additional body in that technical engineering group. So that covers a little bit around resourcing, capacity planning. I've touched on the timesheet already. From a task planning perspective as well, individuals will have a tailored application for them, which I'm not going to go into today. But again, this is just for me. I can see the things that I'm working on, which is showing me, again, I can look at things sort of monthly, right, or on a weekly basis. I can see what items are complete. We've got that user testing that's coming up, right? And again, from here, I'm able to do a range of things. I can log time on tasks from here, which again is going to drop into my timesheet. I can move tasks around. So again, this project initiation, there is a dependency linked to this kickoff call. So for example, if the customer asked us to move that back, we can move that out by a day. Now that's going to give me a bit of a lead time here in terms of like the implementation agreement, which I could choose to adjust or not. But again, that task planner is going to give me a way of visualizing work that's upcoming. And from here again, I can say, look, I need to add people to this particular activity, right? So I can add people in here. Or alternatively, I could be looking to manage the dependencies from here, right? So basically saying, look, is there something that I need to tie this to? So again, lots of flexibility there. Not to dwell on that too much, finishing off then with, right, we've covered our P&L. We've talked a little bit about kind of what things look like from a pipeline planning perspective, the project structure, managing multiple products and services, resourcing, task planning. So let's look at how some of that then comes together in terms of our forecasting and our reporting on how we're impacting ARR and other customer health metrics. So final dashboard for a moment. So pretty straightforward. We can see overall what's in our backlog, how's that breaking down in terms of where it's being delivered. I also want to be able to understand, based upon milestones in those projects, how we're performing versus our targets to get to specific milestones. So, for example, at the moment, at this point in the year, and this may change, we're pretty good at getting ahead of our target in terms of time to launch, which is fantastic. So potentially that target's too high. And then I can also see who in my team is managing the most ARR, what's going live this quarter. So I've just got a lot of visibility here in terms of the velocity, but also quality. So again, as we come down here, I can see what ARR is at risk, what revenue is at risk, which is associated with these red projects. Now, of those red projects, only one of them, the VirtuaCon one here, has got that ARR at risk at the moment. But again, that might change. So there's some things that I need to keep an eye on. These projects are overrunning. These projects are not. Pretty straightforward. And then we've got some initial risk analysis here, which is basically what are the common issues that we're seeing, right? So at the moment, pretty much the number one in terms of risk is technical. Operationally speaking, not too many risks, right? But again, there's some pattern matching which we can do. And then this gives us a picture of why we're seeing that achieve rate earlier on and potentially why there's those low levels of utilization, which is there's actually a pretty significant amount of non-billable work that's going on as a proportion of the whole, which also explains why we're in a hole in terms of this service offering from a profitability standpoint. We've covered a lot of ground. Hopefully that gives you a good flavor for the value that Precursive can drive. Overall, we're really looking here at how you turn services into a true lever for growth, a core element of the GTM motion. So rather than you being a cost center and in a reactive motion, your team very much gets on the front foot with the data and the visibility that they and you need to scale confidently. Thanks very much.